Olivia, 99% of organizations are now using AI in some form, and 83% are running agents. Only about a third of them have actually been able to connect those agents to trusted internal content across many use cases.
There could be real damage done, right? And that's where I think these companies that are on this AI transformation path actually almost grind to a halt. 90% of the data in an enterprise is unstructured. That is the biggest unlock because it is the most amount of data in the enterprise.
Just 1 year ago, 53% of companies categorized themselves as either not having adopted AI or being at the early stages of adoption. Today, that figure is just 9%. By contrast, 64% characterize themselves as advanced, with widespread adoption of AI across their company, or even leading edge, where AI has been fully integrated into business operations. Those findings come from the second annual State of AI in the Enterprise report from Box, based on a global survey of 1,600 IT decision makers. And I'm here to discuss those findings with Box's Chief Operating Officer, Olivia Nottebohm. 99% of organizations are now using AI in some form, and 83% are running agents. Why do you think adoption has been so rapid?
Nick, great to be with you today. If we look at the arc over which these companies have contemplated AI, so if you think a year ago, and having been in those conversations with CIO of what do you think about AI, how are you going to implement AI, it wasn't necessarily a given that everyone was going to implement AI. There were still learnings, there was still interest and curiosity, but real concern. And we are now at the point where it's a when, not an if. And that means that now people are moving faster because they realize I definitely am going to leverage AI. And how do I do it? How do I do it at speed? Of course, safely. But how do I make sure that people in my company are using it and trying it and really trying to get the impact that we all are talking about?
Absolutely. And on the subject of impact, what we found from the recent research that we've done is among those companies that categorize themselves as most mature, as leading edge, half of them are reporting significant impact on ROI. But among those companies that categorize themselves as early stage, it's only 1 in 9 companies seeing that significant ROI impact. Why do you think there is such a difference in the ROI and the impact that companies are seeing from AI today?
It's a really interesting question, and I know that it is one that we're all grappling with. Really, when you think about it, it's about change management, and it's about the way in which it's being done. So at the end of the day, yes, these LLMs have advanced. Some are leapfrogging others at any given point in time, but the tech is there. The tech is powerful. And so then the question is, okay, what is your execution path? Are you redesigning processes? How are you driving the actual change in the behavior that's needed to adopt and leverage the AI? And what does it mean for your people and your teams? And that whole element of actual operations and execution is, I believe, where the rubber's meeting the road on AI. It's one thing to pay for a number of seats or approve a certain volume of tokens. It's a completely different thing to have a programmatic approach to teaching people, to role modeling it, to telling them the why, and to celebrate the impact. And that takes a lot of work, and it's hard to do. So it's really great when you see those companies being able to do that.
One follow-up, if I might. Is it predominantly, therefore, is it a human challenge, or is there a set of questions around the infrastructure beyond just sort of model choice that companies should be thinking about as well?
So there's 2 key elements that we see. One is the people element, right? An underestimation of the level of change management that's required.
Yeah.
And the second is actually the data. And the reality is that agents that work on data that hasn't been curated, that doesn't have the right governance or the right permissions, are risking bringing kind of gibberish back, right? And we have these high expectations, but then those agents go out, they work on this data, and what comes back is not anything that can be used in an enterprise. So the question of data is really, really important. And I think it's one that is underestimated. I would actually say a year ago when we were talking to people and saying, what is your content strategy? Even then, there wasn't as much resonance as you would as you would expect, given what we knew about agents. But now people are saying, I need a content strategy. In fact, I don't know if I even should open up agents until I make sure that my content is in a place where when those agents are acting upon it, they're giving us really good high value results.
And on the subject of results, I just want to go a little bit into what those look like. And some of the data, again, shows that those everyday individual productivity wins that we're all familiar with when we first started using ChatGPT, writing, document analysis, etc., they're still where companies are seeing a lot of value today. But again, when you look at those more mature leading edge companies, they seem to be sort of opening up a new area of work that maybe they just couldn't do before. They're about twice as likely as those early stage organizations to use agents for work that just wasn't feasible before. What are maybe some examples you've seen of companies doing that and being able to use AI for work that just wasn't feasible just a short time ago?
I think there are two buckets. So the one, as you were saying, is almost the personal productivity bucket, right? That is, okay, I want to get an insight. I want to be able to do a task. There is a realm of things that now individuals can do that they could not do before, right? So we had one customer who purchased another company, a very large company, think tens of thousands of employees, and they were able to onboard those employees, those new employees, in a week. And that's because they were using metadata extraction and they were looking at all of those employee information and being able to ingest all of that unstructured data into now what become the parent company. Another example is a situation where we had a bank, right, that works with us that is constantly onboarding clients. Well, that process actually takes quite a long time. Typically, it can take up to a week because you're going back and forth with the client, asking for the document, reviewing the document, saying, I need this information, everything that takes up to set up a new client. Well, now they're able to do it in hours. I mean, it's really incredible, right? And it's, again, because all of that information is provided. We're able to flow the metadata through the decision tree and make sure that all the information is there. And you get these very quick responses to the data that's being provided, the data that's still needed. And all of a sudden, they're able to onboard those clients so much faster. And actually, when you look at those companies, they are in a massively competitive situation. And so how many clients they can onboard actually means market share for them. Yeah. So it's a big deal. So it's incredible to see in that enterprise level processes really what these companies are able to now do.
Another thing when it comes to sort of this broader idea of content and unstructured data is we're seeing that those most mature organizations of that group, nearly 2/3 of them are describing their documents. They're describing that unstructured data as an active competitive advantage now, against only about a quarter of those companies at the really early stages. Why do you think it is that the leading edge is seeing content as such a key part of AI?
Well, there is this now known fact that 90% of the data in an enterprise is unstructured.
Sure.
And that's where what we call content, whether it's a video file, a document that you've written, a photograph, it could be a song, all of that is unstructured content. And so those companies that are finding the most benefit and understanding the value realize that, actually the majority of my data is unstructured data. And therefore, I need to be able to give access to AI, again, in a responsible way. But that's going to be the unlock for my business. And guiding people through that journey and how they're able to navigate getting the insights, driving the tasks, and even creating entire workflows across that content, that is the biggest unlock because it is the most amount of data in the enterprise. What we've seen is that context layer. Yeah. And I say context, right? It's coming from the content, but it's that enterprise-specific context. Because as we know, the LLMs are coming in. They've been trained on public information. Yeah. But now for you to get intelligence from your own information, your agents need to have your enterprise-specific context. And that is where the biggest unlock is.
We've touched a little bit on governance and why that is so important. The data is telling us that about 3/4 of organizations today are saying that their current governance is slowing down their agent rollouts. But more than 9 in 10 say better governance over time will let them move even faster. So they don't want less governance necessarily. It's just they want a different kind built for this new workflow, this new way of using agents, not just assistants that maybe are producing text. So what does good governance look like for AI in general, for agents specifically?
Where companies kind of get stuck is, and what we see is they don't anticipate and think through, well, actually, this content is everywhere.
Yeah.
And if it's not appropriately permissioned and governed, then there could be real damage done, right? And that's where I think these companies that are on this AI transformation path actually almost grind to a halt and say, wait a minute, we need to actually go back and make sure that this is curated and protected before we introduce agents into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Good governance looks like a design in which the governance is the accelerator versus the inhibitor. And what I mean by that is when governance is the accelerator and not the inhibitor, it is a way in which people know that the data they're using is secure and safe. And so they can move quickly when they ask an agent to do a task. They don't need to be worried that it's accessing data that shouldn't have access to, or tasks don't need to be constantly reviewed or outputs constantly reviewed because of the concern about security and governance. And so it is a different world. The way in which governance needs to be defined is anticipating an agentic world, one where agents are speaking to agents, and one where we know that agents will do their best to answer the question they're asked.
Sure.
Right. So the governance needs to anticipate that and take that into account and protect the unstructured data in the appropriate way. But once that is done and you have security built into the platform, then in fact, you can move really quickly.
It is obvious. We certainly see it reading the news. The AI technology, AI tools are changing, it feels almost daily. New model releases, new vendors, all this sort of thing. The leading edge, according to the data that we found, has kind of decided they don't want to pick a winner. They want to build flexibility into what it is that they're doing. More than 2/3 have said they're worried about locking themselves into a single model provider. And the most mature also are saying that they want their agents to run headlessly, connected straight to systems, straight to the data, no human interface necessarily needed. At Box, we talk about being that file system for AI. What does that mean, and why is that so important in this context?
Well, first of all, we want to be able to give our customers choice.
Sure.
So if they choose to use a box agent, they can use the box agent. But if they want to approach it in a headless manner, they can as well. The beauty of headless, of course, is that they get the context from their enterprise content delivered to them in that headless structure. And then if they choose to use another agent, they can do that. But to your point around, yes, you can drop in different LLMs, right? And again, some leapfrog others at any given point. And it is true, and I do believe it's correct that these CIOs really want the ability to have a dynamic evergreen strategy. So when they design that architecture, they want to be able to design one that wins no matter which LLM they choose. And so the perfect partnering to that is then also potentially adopting a strategy where it's headless, right?
Yeah.
So they can swap in and out agents, but then they have that context layer that's the unstructured information that provides the enterprise the intelligence to the agents that they choose to leverage.
Really interestingly, we also ask questions about jobs and the workforce and how AI is changing that. And we found that most of people seem to be expecting that headcounts actually will rise over time. That certainly doesn't mean that things won't change, and change significantly, though. Only about 1 in 8 organizations are telling us that they expect AI to leave roles and team structures intact. Like, things will change. The way that work is done will absolutely change. And the roles that people anticipate being hired for are ones that barely existed a few years ago as well, right? Like agent operators, like workflow specialists. How are you seeing AI changing the shape of the workforce and how work gets done?
Well, we ourselves at Box see different roles coming, emerging, and we're out there in the market looking for these different skills. And it is fascinating to see just over the past 24 months, we've had 13 to 14 new roles open up at Box that were not there before. So everything from a process flow designer that's taking AI into account, There is AI architects. We have AI program managers. We have folks in marketing that focus exclusively on what can be done with AI. And of course, we have forward deployed engineers that are working with our customers to really design those intelligent workflows. And then, of course, we have all the folks in product who are living and breathing AI all day long. I would say it's really invigorating. And it's wonderful to realize that this can be expansive
Sure.
and not this compression that I think was the narrative before. And what's really interesting is that it also means that everyone's job gets to fold in AI in a way where they hopefully feel that they have career progression.
Yeah.
Right. And they are learning this new tech shift, just like they learned moving to the cloud or using a computer or using a cell phone, right? In some ways, the humans are very adaptable. And I am fully confident that our boxers and many of the employees at our customers are excited to learn this new skill and fold it into their job. And then in addition to that, they have these new roles that are helping them along the way.
Fantastic. My thanks to Olivia. The conversation covered an awful lot of ground, but the State of AI report goes even further. All the findings that we discussed today, the data behind them and underpinning them, and what is actually separating those leaders from everybody else. And you can download the complete report at the link below.